there's our work area. So now we got to cut in a light switch right up in there. But before we cut that, we've got to do something. Look over here. What we've got to do, I usually like to make my light switches the same height. So I can take this cover plate off, then I can measure it from the ground up to the bottom of the plastic box that's inside here and transfer those marks over to the other wall. Okay, but there's something really different with that wall that we're working on, and this way may not work that way. Okay, and I'm going to show you in a minute, but I still want to get the measurement of this box. So for the time being, I'm not going to get an exact measurement, but I know that this box is up a little bit, maybe 43 and a half, 43 and a quarter, maybe 43 and a quarter or so from the ground up to the bottom of the box. So I got to remember that. And we're going to do some other probing over there on that wall first before we cut in the light switch. Because I don't want you to cut that light switch in yet. You think, why not? Just, you got the hole there, measure up 43 and a quarter to the bottom or whatever it is and cut your hole. How much harder could it be? Well, I'm going to explain that right now. Now here's something you got to catch. This is an exterior wall, and on exterior walls sometimes there's a row of fire blocks up at 4 feet high, and I'm going to probe for those fire blocks. I'm going to take my stud finder and see if there's a row of blocks there. There could be a row all the way across, and that's going to be important to know before I cut this next box in, because can you imagine if the box that I'm going to cut in is up here and if the fire block is just below the box, how am I going to fish that wire in? Or just above the box? That would be okay, but I still would like to know exactly where that fire block is so I can make a strategic decision, because after I put that light switch in, I then have to run the wire from there up to the track lighting. And there's a few things about fire blocks you need to know. I'm trying to do this without making any sheetrock patches on this wall. That might be difficult, but if you have an 8-foot tall wall and it's an exterior wall or 9-foot tall, you might be able to do it after I explain to you how. But this wall is higher than that, and it's cathedral ceiling, meaning it's going up at an angle. It's higher there than it is over here. See how it angles? So there could be a top plate at that bottom there coming horizontally straight across at that line. There could be a top plate there that I'm going to have to get through to get the wire from the light switch all the way up to the track lighting. And that's going to be a little chore in itself. So I've got my work cut out, but before I make all those decisions, first things first, I've got to find where this row of fire blocks are. And you know what? There might not even be any fire blocks in this wall, but I've still got to test it out. Let's take that one step further. Let's just say there was a row of fire blocks right here. This was an exterior wall, and you were going to put a light switch in here. What to do? Well, once you determine where that row of blocks are, then you can make a determination exactly where your light switch goes, because you don't want to cut your light switch box and then find out you're right in the middle of a fire block, or your fire block is below that and you can't get your wire into that, or whatever. Okay, so you always got to check out for the fire blocks. Now, if there was a fire block, and let's say your light switch was right here and your fire block was right below it, well, what you could do is, first off, you got to make sure that your box isn't going to hit that fire block. Cut your box out. Then you can take a drill in there with a paddle bit and drill a hole through your fire block. Then fish the wire down through there and then grab it from here and pull it out and then fish it up to your box. Okay, so there's certain things you can do without patching your wall if you hit a fire block. So think about that on your exterior walls. Incidentally, sometimes, and only sometimes, interior walls may have fire blocks. Most interior walls do not have fire blocks, so you don't usually have to run into that. But when it comes to installing light switches, think about what you're doing and realize that if it's on an exterior wall, you may have to probe for the fire blocks.